Did Henry Ford invent the 9-to-5 grind? In the year 1913, it took over 12 hours of skilled labor to assemble a single Ford Model T. 1 year later, it took just 93 minutes. This incredible leap in productivity wasn't magic. It was the birth of the moving assembly line, an innovation that didn't just build a car, it built the 20th century economy, the modern middle class, and a new, relentless kind of workday. Before Henry Ford, cars were built by craftsmen. A team of skilled mechanics would work on a single chassis, moving around it, gathering parts, and assembling the vehicle from the ground up. It was a slow, expensive process, much like building a custom piece of furniture. This meant that automobiles were expensive toys for the rich, not a practical tool for the average person. Ford's obsession was efficiency. Inspired by the continuous flow processes of flour mills and the disassembly lines of Chicago's meatpacking plants, he and his engineers broke down the assembly of a Model T into 84 distinct steps. They trained each worker to do just one of those 84 steps. You didn't build a car anymore, you just tightened 3 bolts, or you fitted 1 wheel, or you installed 1 magneto, over and over and over again. The final revolutionary piece was putting the car itself in motion. In 1913, at his Highland Park plant, Ford introduced a system that dragged the car chassis past a line of workers. Now the work came to the man. This relentless mechanical pace eliminated wasted time and movement. Productivity skyrocketed. The cost of a Model T plummeted from over $800 to under $300. The automobile was now within reach of the masses. But this efficiency came at a staggering human cost. The work was mind-numbingly monotonous and physically exhausting. Ford had de-skilled the labor. The proud craftsmen were gone, replaced by interchangeable human parts in a vast, impersonal machine. Workers hated it. The feeling of being controlled by the endless moving line was so demoralizing that the turnover rate at the Ford factory was an astronomical 370% in 1913. To keep the line running, Ford had to hire over 52,000 men a year just to maintain a workforce of 14,000. The constant need to train new workers was expensive and was threatening to destroy the very efficiency the line was supposed to create. So here's the question. Is it a fair trade to sacrifice worker satisfaction for mass affordability? Let me know what you think in the comments. The assembly line is the ultimate case study in the trade-off between productivity and the alienation of labor. By simplifying and standardizing tasks through the division of labor, Ford achieved an unprecedented leap in output. This is the dream of every business: make more, faster, for less. But in doing so, he stripped the work of its skill, creativity, and autonomy. The worker no longer had a meaningful connection to the final product. They were just a cog, alienated from their own labor. Ford's solution to his massive turnover problem was as revolutionary as the assembly line itself. On January 5, 1914, he announced he would pay his workers $5 for an 8-hour day. This was more than double the average wage at the time. The Wall Street Journal called it an economic crime. But it wasn't philanthropy. It was a brilliant business calculation. Ford himself called it one of the finest cost-cutting moves we ever made. The high wage stabilized his workforce, attracted the best and most reliable laborers, and, in a masterstroke of economic foresight, turned his own workers into customers who could afford to buy the cars they were building. But the $5 day came with strings attached. It wasn't a true wage, it was a profit-sharing plan. And to qualify for the full amount, workers had to live their lives according to Henry Ford's strict moral standards. He created a Sociological Department with over 50 investigators who would visit workers' homes unannounced. They would check for cleanliness and sobriety. They would ask neighbors if the worker was a gambler. They even monitored their bank accounts to ensure they were saving responsibly. Workers had to prove they were of good character. If you failed the inspection, you only got half the pay. It was an intrusive form of corporate paternalism, an attempt to engineer the worker's life outside the factory to make them more efficient inside it. This entire system, mass production of standardized goods, high wages for workers, and the cultivation of a mass consumer market, became known as Fordism. It was the dominant economic model for much of the 20th century. It created the American middle class and the consumer society we live in today. The trade-off was baked into the system. In exchange for a good wage and affordable goods, the worker accepted a more repetitive, controlled, and less autonomous work life. Then, the assembly line broke down physical tasks into simple, repetitive steps. Now, algorithms and AI are breaking down white-collar, knowledge-based tasks into simple, repetitive micro-tasks. Whether it's a factory worker tightening a bolt or a gig worker labeling data for an AI, the principle of dividing labor for efficiency remains the same. The feeling of alienation just moved from the factory floor to the computer screen. Henry Ford's assembly line forced a bargain upon the 20th century: individual fulfillment at work in exchange for material prosperity at home. It's a bargain that shaped our parents' and grandparents' lives. As AI and automation promise a new wave of productivity, we have to ask, are we prepared to make that same bargain again? Follow at the Human Timeline TV to see the full story.